Psychoanalysis. Psychoanalysis. Dead end. Uh, in today's discussion, we will go deeper into the various dead ends one encounters in psychoanalysis, various schools of psychoanalysis, and the journey of various concepts in psychoanalysis. And by dead end, we don't mean that psychoanalysis is not going to go any further or it has stagnated beyond repair. In that sense, the dead end is not completely dead. It is a temporal stalemate. Also a pun in the phrase, the dead ends. So there is a dead end. There is an end to the dead. And then a resurgence of a new school, new concepts. Polemics apart, we'll go today into the dead ends and the stalemates into which we find in psychoanalysis, and outline of where we can go from here. So when we say a dead end in psychoanalysis, we encounter different contexts in which a dead end type of situation, a stalemate kind of situation which endures for decades, is seen in psychoanalysis. So let us look at the context in which we encounter dead ends. And as I said before, it's not an absolute dead end. It's a stalemate that metaphorically we are referring to as dead end. And in some cases, it is actually a dead end of a concept or a school because it refuses to widen itself or start afresh or consider phenomena which are difficult to be addressed within the confines of the existing school. So let us look at three different contexts in psychoanalysis where we encounter this situation of a dead end. First, psychoanalysis as a whole. And where the dead end was encountered by psychoanalysis in its journey till now has been by focusing exclusively on the unconscious mind and affect and not focusing adequately on conscious mind, thought, behavior, energy. And it was this dead end which psychoanalysis refused to negotiate out of, a situation which called for a paradigmatic change, which psychoanalysis could not do. And therefore, other schools which addressed these areas unaddressed by psychoanalysis, they came up. And some of them became very popular like CBT, DBT. In the energy area, Reiki, pranic healing, Tai Chi, acupressure, acupuncture. Not that all of them came up with response, some of them are centuries old. They are in tradition, especially in the energy area. Chinese approaches, Indian approaches, Tibetan approaches, these have been there for thousands of years, but they came to the center stage, one of the reasons being that psychoanalysis refused to widen itself and negotiate itself out of the dead end by a paradigmatic change. And therefore, the whole arenas of conscious mind, thought, behavior, energy, positive psychology, all of that was left open for other schools to enter and take over. So psychoanalysis as a whole, as an entire discipline, experienced this situation of dead end when it refused to widen itself and undertake a paradigmatic change to incorporate arenas of thought, behavior, energy, positive psychology, spirituality into itself. So this was one dead end situation at the level of the whole discipline itself, which continues today as it is. And the way things are, I see little hope of the psychoanalytic community overcoming this dead end. Second dead end situation we come across in psychoanalysis is at the school level. So from psychoanalysis as a discipline, let us now get into the slightly more micro scale and look at each of the schools of psychoanalysis and where they got into a dead end kind of situation. The Freudian school got into this dead end situation with eros and thanatos. Very difficult to go ahead with it because after this you get into the experiential area, which is the area of Hindu spirituality, the yogic arena, also found in Tibetan spirituality. And the second part was the conceptual confusion in Thanatos, and also the conceptual confusion in Eros, and the working together of both of them. So pathogenesis of all the disorders in terms of Eros and Thanatos could not be done. So there was a difficulty of internal consistency and generalization. And a conceptual dead end, because how to develop this Eros and Thanatos further beyond the conceptual elaboration. How to go into it experientially, because Freud could experientially navigate and explore interpretation of dream area, the structural model, but found it very difficult to experientially explore Eros and Thanatos beyond a point, because it would take him directly into the area of Hindu spirituality, specifically the Tantra area, which goes into life energy, chakra, nadis. At the deeper part of Tantra, the Agora, which also gets into the translation of Eros into Thanatos and Thanatos into Eros. A more esoteric concept. The Jungian school, the Jungian school got into a stalemate after the concept of individuation, and after Jung tried to create a theory of everything from a psychic standpoint, the unus mundus. And it could not go beyond the point, partly because of conceptual difficulty in the theory of everything. And in case of individuation, the origin and the specifics of individuation, how to find the foundation of them beyond giving a generalist idea of uniqueness of archetypal endowment. Because the reasoning for the specificity of the flavor of the self and the flavor of the archetypal unique endowment, that could not be elaborated. It remained hanging without a foundation. It cannot be done unless you get into a reincarnation type of conceptualization, or at least some conceptualization of design in nature. So unless one moves from design in the psyche to design in nature and connects the two, one cannot have a solid foundation for these fundamental Jungian concepts. Similar situation, Kohut's concept of self, where the self could not be defined very clearly in structural or functional terms, in terms of its origin and in terms of its purpose. What could be done was to elaborate its role and function in operations, some of the operations, and in pathology. But the core of what constitutes ego cohesion or self cohesion, how do you differentiate the self from the ego very clearly? Should self be seen as a metaphoric concept or a structural concept? How does the self form itself when provided a safe environment? So that stalemate continues even today. In ISTDP, the stalemate was of having catharsis and restructuring through an theoretical way. And we realize that everything cannot be done only by pressing for catharsis. And this is not the only way for restructuring. So there are many ways of getting restructuring, and there are many ways of having catharsis apart from just the pressure for feelings. So this also has got into a stalemate, and unless it incorporates other schools of psychoanalysis and their concepts and gives up the pretense of being theoretical, the stalemate cannot be overcome. In Beyond, the stalemate came after postulating healing by O, because the O could not be located structurally or functionally in any model of the mind, because Beyond himself never created a comprehensive model of the mind. And therefore the elaboration of O remained more mystical and poetic and very amorphous, often non-directional. There was no convergence of insight to create a coherent theory or a structure of thought. So these are some examples of dead ends that individual schools have experienced. And these dead ends, once they come, we see followers going round and round using circular definition of words, putting up self-righteous, narcissistic, lame defenses, denying the limitations or the stalemate which has come to exist. And this stalemate often endures for decades. In some cases, it almost looks like it's going to be forever. Hope is, even if the followers of a school are not able to overcome the stalemate, someone who is creating a wider and more comprehensive theory, who incorporates this spool with a dead end, will overcome the dead end because of his insights and his reinterpretation of the spool, existing spool. So the first dead end we saw was at the area level of psychoanalysis, second at the spool level, and now let us look at the concept level. Within the spool, there can be dead ends. And we can have a situation where the entire spool doesn't have a dead end. All the concepts in the spool doesn't have a dead end, but some concepts have gone to a dead end situation. So dead end calls for end the dead. In Freud, the concept of thanatos went into a dead end. It became too amorphous. A kind of split started to exist between eros and thanatos. All good became eros and all difficult became thanatos, which was not the case. I have discussed in details one of the episodes, the split between eros and thanatos and how they can be reformulated. The title of the episode is How Many Instincts? In that episode, I have discussed about what constituted eros, what constituted thanatos, how a split is clearly seen, and if we put together all that is under eros and thanatos and regroup it, what do we get? That creates a far more clear and acceptable structure than eros and thanatos as it is. So thanatos got into a dead end. Some Freudians even said it's not necessary. Aggression was enough. So eros and aggression is enough. You don't require the esoteric death instinct concept. In Jung, the conceptual dead end was in the concept of self. How do you define it? Is it at the center? Is it everywhere? If it is structural, is it inborn? Can it change itself, or is it completely made at birth and nothing can happen thereafter? Can will and self-work have an impact on self, or is it just a one-way traffic from self to the outer consciousness? So there is a conceptual dead end in the concept of self, its location, its origin, its structure, its functioning, its purpose, foundation of its uniqueness, how it is connected to the larger flow of life. If there is a design in nature, how is the design in nature connected to the design of the self in the individual? In Kohut, the conceptual dead end was in the self. How does self-cohesion actually happen? Is there an empirical way of knowing it and enhancing it in a more objective way? So this whole empirical aspect of self, the clear clarification of self and the ego and the relation between the two, and a clear demarcation of self-pathology and non-self-pathology, that went into a dead end. In ISTDP, the theoretical approach went into a dead end, and today, for fragile patients, we talk about holding. So Kohut has come in. For strongly resistant patient, we talk about split. For fragile patient also we talk about split. Under more pressure, when CPD happens, the cognitive perceptual disturbance happens, we see the split in operation. So in ISTDP, although it wants to be a theoretical, Klein has come in, Kohut has come in, and I'm for deep-seated Oedipal problems, the Freudian theory also has to be used. It doesn't come out just by a theoretical pressure. So the theoretical approach has come to a situation of a dead end. In beyond the location, structure, and function of O, and a clear empirical understanding of how it operates, that has met with a dead end. Episode of mind exists which goes in details of this issue. Title is Home of O. And in this discussion of Home of O, I go into details of how do you locate and try to elaborate in terms of structure and function the concept of O. Schools in psychoanalysis follow this pattern. First, there is a creation of a school, obviously by some genius. Then there is explosion after hard and difficult work of laying down the foundation. The application of foundation to a variety of areas, clinical and non-clinical, happens, and there is an explosion of the school. At this stage, followers of the leaders also join in, and there is a critical mass of people, and it leads to explosion. And then the school reaches the state of stalemate. And if we look at the creation, at the stage of creation itself, the seeds of this stalemate are visible. And the stalemate over a long period of time becomes a dead end. In most situations, the dead end is because at elemental levels, structural and functional explanation of the core concepts of the school is not done adequately or is not possible to be done. So there is in any school some core concepts, and those core concepts cannot be explained or elaborated in an elemental sense in structural or functional terms. And that is where the stalemate usually comes. And it also points out that the core concept of such schools has not been very clearly understood by the founder himself. So there is a lack of comprehension. That does not take away the genius of the founder, but there is a partial understanding of the concept, and therefore it cannot be elaborated in elemental terms, structural terms, functional terms, or in terms of its location in any model of the mind. And the outcome is results are not attained in many situations from the school or from the concept. One of my teachers used to tell me this story. His teacher, who was a psychiatrist, used to tell him about psychoanalysis. Brilliant explanations, no results. Not true. In the extreme, it's a rhetorical statement, but some part truth hides there. And this often comes up in the dead end situation, that when you apply a school to a variety of situations, in many situations, either the school or some concept of the school, which is core to the school, is not able to get results. That is when we realize the stalemate or the dead end. And this cannot be resolved. The problem of elemental explanation, the problem of location in the model of the mind, problem of the structural aspect of the core concept, the functional aspect of the core concept. This cannot be attended and addressed unless we have a comprehensive model of the mind in which these concepts or schools can be located in structural and functional terms. And therefore, this comprehensive model of the mind is very necessary. Unfortunately, after Freud and Jung, we did not have geniuses who are dedicated to and capable of creating elaborate models of the mind, which is so necessary today. So what is the hope there? So the hope in the dead end is, a dead end also is the foundation for creation. To positively look at it. And if we have to overcome the dead ends in psychoanalysis, then whatever school of psychoanalysis we conceptualize, or the model of the mind we conceptualize, we may not have the product ready, but we know what ought to be the characteristics of that product. And one characteristic, and these characteristics I have listed out here, then whatever be the solution to all these dead ends in psychoanalysis, we may not have the exact solution, but we know the outlines of that solution. And the outlines of that solution are: one, it has to be a comprehensive school; two, it has to have a comprehensive model of the mind. So let us go deeper into these outlines. First, the solution to the dead end situation, integration of school situation, holistic psychoanalysis objective, integration of various schools and approaches in psychoanalysis in terms of technique. If all of that has to be accomplished in some way, whatever be the solution, certain outlines of solutions are here. That solution has to have these 5 characteristics at the least. The first is, the solution has to be capable of integrating areas of thought, affect, behavior, energy, karma, history, culture, spirituality. If you are not a believer, you want to remove karma and spirituality, you can do it. But the rest of it still has to be integrated. And one solution is, have a comprehensive model which addresses all of it. And the model should be modular enough that if you remove karma and spirituality, you still end up with a secular model equally good. Second, so first characteristic is, the school or the model of the mind or both of them together, which is the solution we are looking for to overcome the dead ends in psychoanalysis, it must be capable of integrating all of this. Second, the solution should be capable of integrating the Western psychotherapy models. Third, Eastern psychotherapy models. Fourth, Eastern spirituality and culture. And with all of this integration, we should have a comprehensive model of the mind or a comprehensive school of psychoanalysis. One attempt on this path is creation of heat school or heat model of the mind, holistic elemental analysis and therapy, the model of the mind that I have put forward, I have created. So either heat or something like it, something better than it, will provide us a way out of this dead end. And the dead end will become an occasion for a living journey. Now, this living journey has to be very original. The new model of the mind, new school has to be very original. Not that you don't stand on the shoulders of existing knowledge, of course you do. So with this discussion on dead ends, I will now move into the original journey of my own, how to address all the dead ends, how to create a comprehensive model of the mind, a comprehensive school, and therefore in the coming months, I'll be focusing on my own original journey. And the original journey will be one of creation of new concepts and schools, school and concepts, of integration of all that exists at present, all that meaning whatever I can understand. So first aspect will be of in the original journey, which I am starting from this moment, or rather I should say in the next couple of days I will start and go on for maybe a year. 2023 will be by and large the original journey of my own. And it will be a journey of creation and integration of original concepts that I have discovered, of original exploration of the inner world of my own, especially the surreal world inside. It shall involve also tool creation, because psychoanalysis and psychotherapy both are tool deficient areas. So tool creation, and towards the end, a holistic school development, first conceptual, then empirically validated. So the original journey will start now, and it will involve use of language, use of events, use of cases, which can be radically different in color and flavor from traditions and conventions in psychoanalysis. Hope in a year's time, the original journey should end. We should have holistic school development. This holistic school development will enhance and advance not only conceptually the model of the mind and school development, but more importantly, from an applied standpoint, pathogenesis and healing. Thank you.